Testing, testing. The presentation will begin shortly.
You want to see what your friend will scoot over? I think you'll handle mine.
No, but
Clear for a long time, I think you can tolerate it. Yeah. That's how long I've been here. So. My voice is doing great. That one just turned 25. He works at Deutsche Bank in Jacksonville. That one just graduated from college. And lives in St. Pete. Yeah. There's a truck out front, I think, and they Protection Engineering, maybe. Well, when we go online searching engineering, well, they got hired. City Council approved hiring them in March, but the money was put in this fiscal year's budget to start October 1. So City Council approved hiring in March. Is that thing on?
Check. Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We're just making sure everyone is in. We don't want to leave anybody out, so there's some people going to an overflow room. So you just give us a couple minutes to make sure everybody is where they need to be. Steve's going to give some opening remarks, and we'll get going. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all very much for being here. We are excited about the turnout. We've already filled up our overflow room, so we're going to get started. And I'll start with, I'm Steve. I've met some of you before, walking around your neighborhood. Maybe some of you have emailed me, but I'm Steve Berens, Stormwater Engineer for the City of Venice. And our meeting today will be run by CPE, our consultant, who we have here to conduct the Flamingo Ditch Feasibility Study. And we do have a couple council members here with us, so we have a great turnout, great representation. And because we have multiple of them, you won't be hearing their opinions or their thoughts on this due to sunshine law. But we're happy to have them, and I know they see you and hear you. So we are looking forward to getting started. I will let Tom introduce his team, but I'm here from the engineering department, again, Steve Berens. We have James Clinch, Assistant City Manager here. And we have anybody else? We have Amanda from the clerk, who will be graciously keeping us organized, which I know we will need. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Tom.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and for the people that we can't see that are in the overflow room or also online. This is incredibly important to us to get this feedback today, so when Steve said we're excited to have you here today, that is genuine. We truly appreciate your interest and opinions, and we're here today to hear a lot of that. Before we get started, I'll introduce myself. My name is Tom Piero. I'm a professional engineer and the principal engineer of Coastal Protection Engineering. I'll talk a little bit more about our firm and who we are and how we got involved in this project. But I'd also like to introduce Joe Morrow. He's also a professional engineer, and he's the engineer that will be working on the modeling associated with this effort and really the nuts and bolts of the project. So I thought it was important that he's here to hear your input directly. And he's going to talk a little bit about our technical approach, although this is not a technical meeting. Michelle Pfeiffer, her name is up on the board there as well. She's the project manager for this study. She unfortunately got sick over the weekend and couldn't come today, but I believe she's listening in from home on your streaming system, so she will also hear all of your feedback directly. It was working, I promise. Try it again. Is there a way to advance the slides manually? I promise I tested it. I'm an engineer, I test everything. Yep, almost worked. Well, while we're figuring that out, I'll keep talking, and I'll set up a little bit about what we're going to do. So we'll go through a little introduction of what our firm is. I have a slide there to show that. We'll talk about it in a minute. And then we'll go through a little bit of what our scope of work is that the city contracted us to do, and how we are going to move that scope forward, and what it includes, and also importantly, what it doesn't include. We realize that this is a big project. It's very important to all of you, and we want to hear your feedback on that today. But this is not a conclusive study. We're not going to give you any answers today. We're not going to give you any answers definitively for construction timing and things like that today. More importantly, we're going to study this from a very objective way, a science-based approach. And Joe will talk a little bit about that. Then we'll also go into kind of our public comment period and show you the different ways that we have set up for that. One is an online website that many of you have already contributed to, so thank you for your comments. It helped us kind of get prepared for this meeting by having those comments in hand ahead of time. And also, if you had signed up today to give a public comment, that will be provided here, and you'll come up to the front here and give your comment. It is important that you speak it into the microphone, because there are people online and in other rooms that will want to hear what you have to say as us. I will also mention, as far as I'm aware, this is going to be a recorded meeting, so that's not only a disclaimer for all of you that it's recorded, but it's important for us so that we can go back and look through these comments and listen to them again, because I promise you, all the information we're going to take in today, I'm going to forget about half of it. So we're going to go back to our recordings and listen to it all again and make sure that we have encompassed all of the different pieces. And now with that, we're back online. So again, this is the agenda. That's kind of what I just tried to talk through off my memory here, and we'll open it up for comments at the end. I do respectfully request that you hold your comments to the end. Our presentation is not long. It is not technical, but it's important that we're able to get through it to set the stage in order to receive your comments. So again, our company is called Coastal Protection Engineering. We're based out of Boca Raton, Florida. We have an office in Destin, that's where Joe works, and another office up in North Carolina. The purpose of this slide to show you this about our company is that we are scientists, we are engineers, we are numerical modelers, we are geologists, we are biologists. We're not salespeople. We're not here to sell you on some solution that may or may not work. We're here to truly evaluate the problem with a fresh eye from scratch and get this input from you at the beginning. Often when I do these public presentations, there's a concern that we've already made up our mind before we start. That's not the case here. We are truly not putting the cart before the horse. We want to get your information. We want to listen to what you have to say, and we're going to proceed from there. So we won't have a lot of answers for you today, but that's on purpose. It's by design. We want to get your information first and go through all of these expertise that we have and come forward with a solution that we truly believe would be the best for the problem. We need to fully understand the problem first. So our objective here today is to have an open and proactive and positive discussion about the issues surrounding Flamingo Ditch and solicit your input to help us along with our study. It really truly is a fact-finding mission. That's what we're here for today. We want to hear your feedback. We do want it to be positive. We know that and respect that a lot of you are frustrated by the history. You've had your homes impacted repeatedly in some cases, and I fully respect that and feel for you. But we're really here today to look forward. So if you please can keep your comments positive and proactive, I promise you that we will use those comments to the best of our ability to move things forward. So the scope of our work is really to look at how water gets into this area and why water doesn't get out. It's a twofold problem, right? Water's coming in from rain, it's coming in from storm surges, sometimes one at a time, sometimes compounded at the same time. And really the more important problem is it can't get out once it gets in, right? It's a drainage issue. The water levels fill up, it gets blocked in one way or the other, it can't go out, and it floods the homes. So we understand that much, at least, at this stage. So we want to assess some potential solutions to that, and we're going to look at things that have been tried in the past, things that didn't work, maybe things that may have worked a little bit but are temporary, and try to look those forward into the future. And at the end of our study, we hope to inform primarily the city, but also the residents here, as to what we think are some potential solutions that may improve the situation. I can't stand here today and guarantee you that we're going to solve the problem. Engineers can't give guarantees. We don't do that. But what we can guarantee is that we're going to look at all of the solutions that are available and bring back to you what our best recommendation is. There are some things that are not in this scope, and it's important to realize that. This is not an exhaustive study. We're not going to write a PhD thesis on Flamingo Ditch as a result of this study. And that's because we're trying to do it quickly. We understand that there's been a lot of time, and this has been a reoccurring problem, and we're going to move it forward as fast as possible. And we're going to do it in stages. We're going to get to a point where we think we have something that's reasonable, and then we'll take it to the next step, subject to the direction of the city. So we do not have in our current scope any detailed design, advanced engineering, construction, things like that are not included here. So I just ask that you acknowledge that as we move through. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Joe here to talk a little bit more about our technical approach on how our scope is laid out. Joe?
Thank you, Tom. So one of the things as part of our scope, we're going to come up with 5 different conceptual alternatives to kind of assess the issues with the roadways and private property that are flooding near the Flamingo Ditch outfall. As a means of being able to do that, we're going to look at a couple of different things. One of which is the existing city's operational ICPR stormwater model, looking at various GIS data. We're also going to look at offshore, cross-shore beach modeling to assess storm surge, and also do some engineering desktop evaluations, incorporating as much data that we can ascertain and acquire based upon the history and any information that y'all folks give us. As part of our evaluation of any of the alternatives that we come up with, what we're going to be looking for as far as evaluating each of the independent conceptual alternatives that we develop are their efficiency in reducing the flooding from the different flooding sources. So the one alternative may be best at stopping storm surge, one may be better at stopping rainfall events, or the combination of both, but we're going to weigh those individual issues against the alternatives to kind of develop and see which one or a combination of alternatives may work out in reducing and or stopping the flooding in the vicinity of Flamingo Ditch. So where we're at right now, what we've learned basically is that the Flamingo Ditch is an open drainage ditch surrounded by low-lying areas impacted by storm surge and rainfall events. Repetitive flooding, private property and the nearby roads happens consistently for small rain events, large storm events. Basically, there's a repetitive flooding caused by multiple different types of events, and even sometimes compounding events between storm surge and rainfall. So what we'd like to learn today is basically have historical context and local observations provided to us from y'all, give us as much information y'all are aware of any of the historical flooding within the areas, what events have triggered such flood events, and also any type of concepts or ideas that you may have had for stopping the flooding or may have even been implemented in the past that haven't worked, or just an idea for us to consider. We're open to any and all information you're willing to share. And basically, any other feedback that you think would be helpful to us, we're willing to accept it and we'll consider it as part of our analysis. We're basically here to listen to what y'all have to say. So with that being said, I think originally we had talked about doing comment cards at today's meeting, but I believe we're not doing the comment cards, physical cards. So what we instead have is a means via a website, the flamingoditch.com website. There is a contact form there that you can fill out and provide any information you'd like us to receive. I personally received the email that comes from that website. And I think so far we've had almost 24 comments so far with some very insightful information. We appreciate it. The messages have been received, and we thank you. And again, any comments you would like to receive or us to receive, please, flamingoditch.com. Okay, I have a picture of it right here that shows what the site looks like, the contact us form. And as I mentioned, I received that email that comes from that site directly.
And I tested that form myself. It definitely works. Joe got my message. He got your messages too, so thank you. I'll leave that up there for just a second if anybody wants to jot it down or take a picture. As Joe said, a couple dozen comments have already come through, and they have been helpful to help us already starting to frame out what we're going to talk about. So please, if you don't get the chance to speak today, or you leave and something comes to you on the way home, so, I wish I would have said that, please just go here and fill it out and send it in, even if it's repetitive or a repeat. We would like to have those comments. Just before we open it up for public comment, that's really the conclusion of our presentation, so you're all going to get your chance to speak now. I do want to just cover one other thing. I am certain that one of the questions, if not one or multiple questions I'm going to get is, when are you guys going to be done? That's what we always get asked, right? So I want to set a little stage on all the things that we need to do in order to get to the point to answer that question. And the first thing is that after this meeting today, we're going to take, again, the comments that are submitted to the website, the comments that are read here aloud today, and we're going to go back and meet with our internal team and digest all of those comments. We need to understand what they mean. We need to sort of categorize them to see where the comments overlap, because then that starts to drive us towards where the problem is and where the solutions might be. With the holidays coming up, it'll probably take us, into the middle part of January to get through that part. We will also then, as these comments start overlapping and start getting categorized, we will sit down internally with our team and have a brainstorming session where we list off sort of every conceivable solution that we can come up with, even things that might not make sense. And that's kind of why we're asking for input here today. We don't want to leave anything on the table. Now, once we have that big brainstorming list, we will likely go through and start culling things out that truly don't make sense. You know, we can't come in with a helicopter and scoop the water out, things like that. But there are going to be things that come out that we maybe didn't think of at first, but start to kind of float to the top as potential solutions to consider. Our job there is going to be to whittle that down to those 5 alternatives that Joe mentioned is in our scope so that we can then move forward and put them into this ICPR model, which is a stormwater model. That is an intensive model. It's actually county-wide. In fact, kind of all counties have a stormwater model like that. Joe has already obtained all the files, has it set up, and has started reviewing it. There's some gaps in it, some things we need to fill in, and again, putting in some information for what these alternatives might be. So that's also going to take probably another 30 days or so to do that. And once we have that set up, then we're looking at, maybe 4 to 6 weeks of analysis back and forth, trying to figure out what makes sense, fine-tuning things, changing things, deleting things, adding new things back in. It's that kind of a model. You kind of plug information in and pull information out. And then at that point, when we come to some findings of it, we're going to sit down with the city and talk about what we found. What did we learn? And I can't tell you today what that is because we haven't done that yet. Again, remember, the cart before the horse. We're not that kind of firm. We are going to look at this objectively and try to come up with what did we actually learn. And we're excited to do it. That's why we're excited for your input here today to see what we learn. So I expect that will probably occur in the spring, maybe the April timeframe. Again, it depends heavily on how well this model that we have received and downloaded is set up. If there's issues with it or data that needs to be collected, all of that kind of pushes things out. But based on what we know right now, that's about the time frame that I expect we will be coming back to the city for a discussion. And then where it goes from there depends on how that discussion goes. So just to try to get ahead of it a little bit, I wanted to bring that up before we open it up to public comment. So at this point, I think we're ready to move to that next stage. Yes?
Whenever you're ready, we do have speakers signed up. And when your name is called, I'll also be displaying a list at the front for the following people to get ready. If you're in the overflow room, you can come over. But you'll come up and speak in one of the chairs. Make sure you speak close to the mics, and the speakers have 5 minutes.
Yes, and just before we start that, we have an honorary guest who's the chairman of this Flamingo Ditch Steering Committee that volunteered to go first. So I think if we're ready for that to start.
Yes, that woman.
If I could ask you, please, again, this is being recorded for the record. State your name, if you're comfortable, where you live, your address, and just if you can try to remember that, it will help us kind of keep track of who's who. We're not going to send you any junk mail, I promise.
Thank you, Mr. Piero. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Beat Lehman. I'm the chair of the Flamingo Ditch Steering Committee, which represents all major homeowner associations impacted by the ditch. We started to meet after the serious flooding event on August 30th, 2023, caused by the tropical storm Idalia, when several hundred residents, mostly seniors, got stranded for 2 days in their homes because the Flamingo Ditch backed up stormwater onto nearby streets and homes. Other outflows on the island worked fine. Zone 5, which is Flamingo Ditch, covers the largest area from the Gulf to Tamiami Trail in terms of residential density. And it is now clear that this ditch outfall is no longer feasible, a feasible method of stormwater drainage. In past Band-Aid attempts focused on the FD outflow have not yielded any reduction of flooding. The situation has caused not only an unnecessary hardship for the affected residents, but also an unmitigated falling of our public beaches, which are the bedrock of our local economy. A closure of Venice beaches because of the hazardous material and toxic water eventually flowing towards the Gulf would have a devastating impact of future tourism seasons. The cost of inaction by the city left unchecked could punch a large hole in local economic growth for years to come. Any structural engineering solution and its implementation, when approved by the City Council, is not just only beneficial to the residents in Golden Beach neighborhood, it is the most desirable area for walkers and hundreds of daily bikers because of its popular island loop during often high seasons. We are proud of our beautifully maintained properties, gardens, and street sites. And constant floods are damaging our plants, trees, maintained ditches, and driveways. I think what is also important to mention here is the numerous complaints dumped on our city engineering department and city management for years from angry Golden Beach residents. Steve Berens, constantly preoccupied answering phone calls and emails, and I must say he is doing it very professionally and very patiently. But how motivated do you think he is going to work on a Monday morning reading the same old complaints? We are all just very exhausted and at the same time horrified about thinking to the next year's storm season. So thank you for inviting us to share our thoughts and experiences. We don't have any coastal engineering backgrounds. We are concerned, though, about sea level rise, which you mentioned, and that extreme storms are major threats to the resiliency and sustainability of our community. Since your recommendations should produce long-term and comprehensive solutions, the city and our coastal neighborhoods would be curious of how you approach prevention of sea surge up through the ditch using vegetation, dunes, and dry ponds to slow and detain sea surge. This could also serve as a model for other upland areas of the beach that would prevent flooding of structures fronting the beach, such as MacArthur, Windsong Villas, Venice Villas, Island Shores, etc. The sand excavated from these deep dry ponds could be used to build up the dune area and nourish the beach, saving the city significant funds that it currently spends dredging sand out in the Gulf. Our concerns are that past Flamingo Ditch projects to reduce flooding occurrences on public roads were abandoned because city management and city council determined that improvements were cost prohibitive or only partially effective. A cursory look at the stormwater maps indicates that too many streets may emptying into the Flamingo Ditch, outflow number 5. Just 1 inch of rain and the street ditches and swales are full and overflowing. One plausible strategy could be to focus on lightening the load, but if the berm is not open, it may still get stuck and cause the street flooding. That's why the question always comes up, why not use submerged pipes altogether as an alternative to the natural outflow, bypassing private property concerns, toxic water issues, erosion, protected turtle nests, and so forth. The city is responsible for stormwater drainage of all public streets in Venice and has an obligation to maintain these stormwater systems, like the Flamingo Ditch. Venice collects several $1 million annually for stormwater service that is billed to every household and property owner as part of the monthly utility bill. It is correct that the city does not own the Flamingo Ditch land, as zoning maps indicate, but it owns an easement to utilize the ditch in order to offload stormwater from the public roads. In concluding, it is in everybody's interest to correct these infrastructure deficits and make the Golden Beach neighborhood again a safe place to live. Thank you, Mr. Piero, for coming to Venice Island and listen to us. It gives us great comfort and reassurance that we may finally get this result. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Can we all go home now? That was, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you. Those are excellent comments. We appreciate it. So I think the clerk is going to call out names in order now, and if you can come up and try to do the same, state your name, where you live, and try to keep your comments under 5 minutes. We would appreciate it because we have a lot of people here.
The next speaker is Chris. There's no last name, but 300 Shore Drive.
I did the online form. Not sure why my last name didn't come in. My name is Chris Durback. First off, following Bayout's going to be very hard because I think he hit just about every topic we were all concerned about. So instead, I think maybe the bigger thing here is to just ask the questions that we all kind of want answers to. And that simply is, who's going to keep the accountability once you guys are not going to be here any longer, once this study is done? What is the city's plan? What are you going to do? And then the bigger thing is, how are we going to prevent future incidences? And I know that these are the biggest questions that everybody's asking over and over and over. And right now, I think the big thing that we all want to see for some reassurances is knowing that these questions will be answered in the future. So I'm not going to take a ton of time because I'm sure everybody else here has a lot more to say. But what I will do is, as somebody who spent a lot of time overseas and did a lot of things around the world, while I'm not a professional engineer, I am an engineer of a different sort. I will go ahead and just submit all my ideas and stuff via the website, so that way you guys can see everything. I'll take pictures, make it more technical for you guys, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. So I'm gonna say thank you very much for coming down, trying to do this feasibility study. I hope something actually comes up with it, and I hope that the city actually takes what we have to say seriously. Because as somebody who's very young, living in this neighborhood with children, I never want to have to explain to my daughter why she has to be rescued by a boat ever again. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, last name Sullivan. 10051 Oasis Palm Drive. Okay. After that, Henry Emder. Stephen Meinson.
My name is Stephen Meinson. I live at 625 Gardenia. I've lived here my wife and I have lived here for 4.5 years. There's a big difference. There's a big difference we have noticed since when we arrived just during the COVID pandemic. The Flamingo Ditch had fish in it, turtles, and even blue claw crabs. Today is very much different. It's overgrown with vegetation, debris, some going back to Hurricane Ian. It smells horribly. We believe there's toxic bacteria in the ditch, and it's really just become an open sewer. I brought some photos today to give you. I've thought we maybe be able to put it on the projector, but this is some of the debris from yesterday of just the vegetation. One other thing that I think we got to make sure we look at is from Gardenia east, it's maintained by the county. The county comes, I believe, twice a year, and I have photographs of them from Friday next to our home, weed whacking. And that's all they do. I don't really believe there's a stormwater system. I have a series of photos of culverts that are clogged up, inoperable, buried again. You can't even see them. So how can water get to the ditch if the system contributing to the ditch is inoperable? Here's one at the end of Venice taken on November 8th, full of water and debris. Photograph 12/11, same debris, no water. Here's a photograph of an area in Fort Myers close to where I work. You can see the culvert is clean, well-maintained, and you know the water will be draining to where it has to go. And they have a 10-mile water system there that drains water. I look at the ditch as a river. And if your tributaries are all full of debris and toxins, you're not going to have a clean, well-flowing water river. There's a photograph from last Wednesday. We had about 5 minutes of rain from my front porch. Pools, okay? But what we've noticed lately is the water's, instead of flowing towards the ditch, it's flowing down, it's flowing south. So the water has no place to go. These photographs are from the day of Helene. You can see the water is coming from the south. It's not coming from the ditch. There's some photographs of some ladies that were taking photographs of the sign that the city set up, that there was flooding and do not go down. That was at 9:36 in the morning. This photograph is at 10:11, looking west from my front porch. There's no water there. It's all south of our house. It's down on Villas. So it's not making its way to the ditch. And I think that's very important. Our neighbors live in fear. They're suffering from anxiety, some of the older folks. And I'd just like the city I wrote down 3 words, and Tom, I think you mentioned one of them, which was proactive, treat this as a crisis, and have some urgency. And that's all I have to say today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Oh, I forgot to show you my water sample.
I've been there. I've seen it.
Okay.
You can show it if you like.
I think you should show it.
Thank you, sir. If you're willing to donate them, we'll take them for sure. Thank you so much.
The next speaker, Henry Emger. He's come over from the overflow room.
Just get nice and close to me.
My name is Henry Amder. I'm at 592 Flamingo Drive. I certainly bring no expertise to this project, and I'm a relative newcomer here at only 4 years. But I can tell you that during the last 2 storm events, hurricane events, even though I'm technically not in the flood zone, I'm in an X zone, the water rose 10 feet into my driveway and perilously close to my home. That same said water down the street caused significant damage to the properties here. So I bring to the commission a sense of urgency. We have another hurricane season, which based on the timeline that you discussed, will preclude any action for the next hurricane season. So I would just ask both you as an engineering company and the city of Venice, for which I pay taxes, to act with due haste to try to address this problem so we don't have continued and ongoing damage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next speaker, Israel Salinas. Yes, if you say where you place document here. Yes.
My name's Israel Salinas. I live at 591 Flamingo Drive. We've lived in Venice at that address for approximately 10 years. And I've taken a number of different photos and different things that around the Flamingo Ditch, occurring on and around actual hurricane events. Some of these are available in video format, so I'm going to share those with you at some point. I can connect how to get you that information. First off, this first graphic video image is of the Flamingo Ditch it was actually during Hurricane Debbie. So I actually went out there during the hurricane, swam out there, got soaking wet, but I recorded what the outflow looked like. And if you look carefully, it's kind of a trickle. It's a trickle of water flowing out from the sand berm. It's kind of hard to see. It's easier to see in the video once you have access to the video. It's a little trickle. It's maybe 2 feet wide. So that was the day of the event. The following day, the net outflow was actually negative. Water was not flowing out of the Flamingo Ditch. We had wave action that was pushing water into the Flamingo Ditch. So this was the following day after Hurricane Debbie. So my point with these two photos is that it was never a reasonable expectation or assumption that the city of Venice can clear that sand berm on a timely basis. When you're talking about a 24/7 and the weather, you talk about tidal action, wave action, surge, tide, et cetera, and rain, to expect that sand berm would clear itself. That's not a reasonable expectation. So when they changed it from a wooden outflow structure, and I think it was in 2018, even before then, that was not really a reasonable expectation that a person would be able to come out there from the city on a 24/7 basis, weekends and holidays, in the middle, 3 a.m. in the morning, to be able to clear that out as needed. So that's my first point. Also, I mentioned Hurricane Debbie. During Hurricane Helene, the storm surge peaked at about 10 to 10:30 p.m. on September 26th. So this was data that I downloaded from USGS that shows exactly that peak surge event. So the next day, the city of Venice came out and cleared the Flamingo Ditch, which would have been a good whitewater rafting opportunity. You can see all the water flowing out. I don't know what exact time they unplugged that. My guess is, I wasn't here during Hurricane Helene. Fortunately, I was out of town. But I'm guessing it was probably around the noon hour. We can find out from the city exactly when that was cleared out. So from 10 p.m. the night before which I don't expect the city to go out there during an actual hurricane in the middle of the night. But my point is that the tide returned to about normal levels around 6 a.m. the following morning. So it was, tide surge was at about a normal elevation at around 6 a.m. the following morning. And it didn't get cleared out until probably around noon that day. I'm sure it takes time to get the equipment out there on the beach and all that good stuff. But, and I'm sure they didn't have the equipment stationed there ready to dig it out as soon as the hurricane was over. So the other thing is, okay, this is what it looked like after a couple days later on October 1st. So you can see it's cleared out, and so the sand berm along the coast This is what it should normally look like in this view. But one point I'd like to make here is that the height of the sand. The Hurricane Helene pushed 4 feet, roughly 3 to 4 feet of sand up into the ditch. And there's no way a person was going to be able to shovel that out by themselves with a shovel. Anyways, I have a lot more information here. I have more questions for the city engineering department. I'd like to see if they can give us a date on when this footprint was developed. It's the outfall 5, where water drains from the neighborhood. These are all the streets that flow into the Flamingo Ditch. How old is this graphic? Has it changed much? I've actually taken this data and put it into Google Earth, calculated how many square meters of land we're talking about that drain into the ditch. Do we have an accurate figure of how many gallons of water flow into the ditch after a 1-inch rain event? For every 1 inch of rain, how much water goes into the Flamingo Ditch? What kind of capacity do we have at the Flamingo Ditch? How many gallons of water does the ditch actually hold? So those were some questions, and I guess because I'm over time, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. We appreciate that so that we can make sure we hear from everybody. If you have materials you want to submit, we can get them from you.
Sure.
And I'll just mention that I was out on the beach after Helene and again after Milton, and I saw exactly what you saw, what you showed in those photos.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Joe and I were talking about it just this morning. So point well taken. Thank you.
Okay.
Next speaker, Mark Stolfer. Follow Ed Martin.
Good morning, and thank you for everyone showing up. It's so important that the citizens have a chance to help communicate, because in the final analysis, this is going to be a policy issue. As someone who is the mayor, we're going to get from this fine group some suggestions. Then the question is, will the city have the wisdom and the energy and belief to do something about it, or will they say, gee, this is too expensive, as has been the case in the past? And although we did not have such a sophisticated analysis. I've lived on Everglades Drive for 30 years. We moved, actually bought the house in 93, moved in 94. I've never seen water on Everglades Drive before. And during Helene, the water came up. We did not evacuate during Helene. We did evacuate during the next hurricane. The water came up to my driveway. Now, I live, I'm going to say 200 feet, maybe 300 feet from Harbor Drive. There are 3 houses, mine is the third. One faces Harbor Drive, one faces Everglades, and the one next to it is where we are. So it is, frankly, it was, I just couldn't believe it. I have a picture, the street looks like a canal in Venice. No joke intended. And then the next time we did have to evacuate. We were ordered to evacuate by the authorities. And we did. We went over toward the Miami area because it looked like the storm would hit north of Miami. And so we were out 8 days before the electricity was back on. While we were gone, a friend who lived elsewhere came over and looked, and she determined that the water had gone into the garage, but it had not gotten into the house, so we were just blessed. Everyone, maybe with the exception of one house, I think, west of us was flooded to some degree. Our yard was completely covered with 2 refrigerators, a bunch of couches, all kinds of stuff. None of it was ours. All of it had been there from the previous hurricane and was still on the street. And when this hurricane came, it blew it up all over our area. And we, in our 90s, were not too likely to be able to drag it off the lawn. And fortunately, I did get a talk with Jim Clinch, and he mentioned that the Rotary was starting a volunteer program. And sure enough, the Rotary came and moved the things to the edge of the curb where they could be picked up, and opened our driveway so we could get back in the house. Now, what has all that got to do? People here have had so much worse that, frankly, I'm guilty, like the survivor's guilt that we managed to escape, but I don't think it's going to happen again. I think what's happening is the weather is getting worse, the hurricanes are getting worse. As I said, I've lived here 30 years, never seen water on that street. There might have been a little water at the very west end, there, near the beach end in the past. I have not seen it, but it's possible at a low area there. But now, the only thought that I had is clearly there needs to be an alternative or supplemental program for removing the water, and or also for possibly seawalls or other things to keep this area from flooding. And obviously the Dutch have been doing it for centuries, so I expect we might be able to figure out how to do it here. And but I also am aware that the gulch, the Deertown Gully, I think it's called, is just south of Golden Beach, about a block and a half, I think. And to my knowledge, it did not back up. It evidently flows out. Now, I don't know what the topography is there. I don't know where the highland is and whether it runs off. But just one thought I had was, is there something we could learn from it? Could we divert water to it if it has a better flow opportunity? Someone's saying no. I guess that's not a good idea, huh? Not that I want it to flood, but I thought maybe if it's running off without trouble, let's see if we could use it without making trouble. All right, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. And I'll acknowledge, too, for the group that we're also aware of the comparison with Deertown Gully and asking those same questions. Thank you.
Next speaker, Marianne Robertson.
Sorry, I would rather stand. My name is Marianne Robertson. I'm a full-time teacher with Sarasota County Schools. I've taken a personal day to stand here before you because I no longer can remain silent about what is happening to my home, our home in Golden Beach neighborhood. Let me paint you a picture of what infrastructure fail really means to my home at 703 and 705 Golden Beach Boulevard at the intersection of Villas Drive. This isn't just any intersection. It's where three separate water systems wage war. Our neighborhood drainage, beach high tide waters, and Flamingo Ditch drainage. Every drop of water that plagues our neighborhood finds its way here to this corner, where my family has watched our dream home slowly transform into a nightmare since 1980s. By 2000, we could only watch helplessly as water crept up our driveway. Inch by inch, year after year, my mom, Elaine Thomas, who spent years of her life documenting this nightmare, she reached out to both the county and the city officials, documenting this countless times. When that didn't work, in 2015, I began my own crusade of emails, phone calls, face-to-face meetings with employees. When no help came, we refused to watch our home become an island. We poured $10,000 into a new culvert system, complete with an industrial grade grate, enlarged pipeline, We thought we bought ourselves salvation, and we were wrong. Let me tell you what actual maintenance of a Flamingo ditch looks like in 2014. While we wait for city solutions, I watch my neighbors grab their shovels and walk out in the pouring rain and dig the ditch out themselves. That is not an emergency measure. That's our standard operating procedure for our neighborhood. Our neighbor with a shovel is what stands between our home and the next flood. When the city's cleaning trucks do arrive, it breaks down. Our own workers have admitted to me the truth. The equipment simply cannot handle the volume of debris and water in our pipes. They leave unable to complete the job with no further timeline to return. In 2018, the city installed a new culvert. Within months, it was compromised. The rubber liner was peeling away from metal, creating new pathways for water to wreak havoc. During rainstorms, our streets become rivers so deep that walking and driving become a gamble for our lives. This isn't hyperbole. Ask the fire department, who had to deploy boats, yes, boats, to rescue residents in my area. In the past, Steve Barnes has stood on my property. I've pled with him to clean out the culvert. His response was, let's wait till after hurricane season. Those words haunt us as we watch our home submerged for over 24 hours on September 26, waiting for someone to unplug the ditch. Do you know what it's like to find fish swimming in your bathtub? To watch your family photos, irreplaceable memories slowly darken with seawater. And then in October, it happened again. For over a week, debris sat piled up in our streets, becoming projectiles in the next flood. My fence was destroyed. My pool became a graveyard for my neighborhood's appliances. My front doors were splintered beyond repair from the impact of waterborne debris. Let me show you what protecting a home looks like when you refuse to let it drown. 2015, a $10,000 ditch. 2017, $12,000 for collapsing pool tiles and resurfacing of a pool. 2022, $9,000 for retaining wall. 2023, $6,000 for a duo drain. And now $4,000 every single month for a rental home while my home sits empty. Its future is tangled in a web of FEMA regulations, insurance claims, city permits, and endless contractor estimates. That's $37,000 poured into the ground, not counting the monthly rental cost of draining my savings. All this investment is the property, and now it sits vacant, its future uncertain. My family has lived in Golden Beach since 1980s, and we've watched this nightmare unfold since the 2000s. We've poured our hearts, our savings, and our future into this historic neighborhood. The real question isn't about residential commitment. It's about city action. When will the city of Venice match the desperate determination of a neighborhood with a shovel? This isn't just my story. It's a chronicle of neighbors' resilience in the face of failing infrastructure. I'm here whenever you need a firsthand accountance of what is really happening on Golden Beach. My voice, my experience, and my documentation of this ongoing crisis may be at your disposal as you move forward with your decisions. Because in the end, this isn't just about saving my home. It's about preserving the heart and the history of Venice itself. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next speaker, Sharon Wagman.
Well, I too live on Flamingo Drive, 393, and we have noticed since we purchased our home in 2016 that we've had to contact the city multiple times about drainage after it rains in our neighborhood. And some of the pictures, I have a couple, I wanted to ask if pictures were uploadable to your website. that you told us about? They are, okay. So, okay, what I wanted to pass these on, this was 1 month before the storm. We had 2 inches of rain. The water sat in our street from the afternoon of the rain until, I don't know, maybe 11, 12 the next day. It was dangerous to drive out. Several people in our block are seniors, have medical needs, and it's not acceptable that the water's not draining over 2 inches of rain. Something has to be resolved. The city needs to step up and figure out how to have this rainwater drain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are these donations as well?
Those are yours.
Thank you.
I have many more.
Next speaker, Julie Thomas.
Oh, in advance. Advance donation. Thank you.
Yeah, I've just turned it on.
Oh, there, thank you. So thank you so much for allowing us to speak today. I greatly do appreciate it. I'm focused on more of that personal side to these issues. I think a lot of the people here today, it's personal. And so my name is Julie Thomas. Actually, my sister just spoke a few minutes ago. We live at 703 and 705 Golden Beach Boulevard. It's a duplex right on the corner of Golden Beach and Venice. So like many of the neighbors, I'm retired. I'm a registered nurse. I'm on a fixed income. I've retired about 2 years ago, but our parents bought our property 35 years ago, so we've been there since 1989. And like many people are saying, since that time, we've never had water like we've had with Helene and Milton. And I think it's important to think about when you retire, your plan is to really enjoy the remaining parts of your life. And so, for me, this event, has, talk about PTSD. I mean, it's really, I've lost my dream about traveling. I've lost all my beautiful furniture. Friends and family can't visit because I don't have a home anymore. And we may need to be selling. We may have to sell because of the concerns of having to do this over and over again. And so this picture is the ditch on our corner of our property, and people have mentioned it. And this is really a good indication of what we know is happening at Flamingo Ditch, because when it's filled like this, it's like, oh boy, the subdivision's in trouble, because if you look farther back, you can see the flooding, where those poor people who now have condemned homes, there's 5 condemned homes on Villas, and unfortunately for them, it's horrible, and most of them are elderly. So the overflow, as mentioned before, it happens even with minimal rain. And again, I think you hear from us, we feel it's the city's responsibility to ensure that the roads are passable and are safe. This photo was taken from a neighbor at MacArthur the morning after Helene. You can see that the sun is rising and that this flood affected about 200 to 250 people in our neighborhood. So we had about 60 to 70 homes in Golden Beach, 100 units in MacArthur, 78 units in Venice Villa, and 6 units in Windsong were affected. And I know there's other people, but these are the people that just live around us. And even though the dunes were breached, and I understand that, I listened to city council meeting recently, it's the Flamingo Ditch that initiates a lot of this issue. And so like many others, we had 2 feet of water in our home. And so, I mean, I lost just about everything, like a lot of people. Cabinets, vanities, the air conditioning, the pool motors, I mean, so much of it was gone. And I think it's important, so you can kind of see before and after pictures, and that's why I'm like, it's personal. Having some type of control, like we're talking about today, over the Flamingo Ditch to prevent that water from backing up, as well as to have a better drainage system, is really, to me, is hopefully the solution. Because there was so much water, we had to get things out quickly. Again, I've never experienced this before, but it was like insane and just nerve-wracking. We had to get things out because that mold was there within like 24 or 72 hours, was growing on things. And then, of course, we heard about Milton, possibly Cat 5. The eye went right over us. So we pleaded with the city. Even some of our residents went down to the city and said, please do something about this debris. And all we heard about is there was no contracts. And so to me, it appeared that there was no proactive, and I think people have mentioned this, there's no proactive procedures, in place about a lot of things, including debris removal. And so, to me, I know there's those large trucks. Couldn't there be some type of, could there possibly be a co-op with another town to purchase one of these? I'm sure they're very expensive, those, huge trucks. Could we potentially have people trained and ready to go? Because I know they need special training to operate those trucks. Could we have used the garbage trucks? Could we have used something else to get some of that debris out of there? Because when the debris hit, it ripped my front door. I had a police officer have to come and help me get the door open to get into my house. But now, because the door was torn off, I had 3 feet of water in my house. So it wiped out all the electrical boxes. Again, debris punched holes in our fence. It broke the posts, it broke the concrete, and pavers were shifted. Then, would you believe, I know there was a mention of mattresses. We had 9 mattresses on our property, 9. None of them are ours. There wasn't anything on our property that was ours. We had on our pool deck, we had a full-size refrigerator, we had a sofa sleeper, an antique chair, lamps. In the pool, more furniture, boxes, pillows, bags of garbage, paint cans, shoes. And so so here is our pool, which, I mean, it took weeks just to get that whole area cleaned. There was probably 12 inches of debris that we had to shovel off. And you can see, so here's the ditch that was overflowing. Look at the debris in here, and you can see the problem of the toxic waste. And I don't even know, there are probably still things in those openings that floated because of the hurricane. But I guess the most frustrating thing for my sister and I is when we went to Seaboard to fill sandbags before Milton, we saw these 9 empty dumpsters, 9 of them. We don't know, could those dumpsters have been deployed to the neighborhoods? We would have filled them like that. They would have been filled. All of us were trying to help each other. And, could it have lessened the damage? Possibly. I don't know. But, again, in my opinion, it doesn't give the appearance of critical thinking. I'm sure, I know you're working hard. You're dealing with a lot of issues during this time, but it just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of critical thinking when it came to what we were dealing with. And I almost consider it to be neglect because the lack of action caused for us about $50,000 in additional damage from Milton, or excuse me, from Helene to Milton. And so, this is what my house looks like today, that. The only thing I have is 2 toilets in my home, that's it. And, it's a shell. I mean, there's nothing left. I've lost almost everything. I even lost my cute little dog. She died 3 weeks after Milton. And I think it's just because she was old and we were moving. We had to move 4 different times because nowhere to go. And I think the stress of it caused her to pass away before her time. So, the city council, I think, it's so important to, to remember you've signed up for this. You need to protect us. You need to protect the citizens, including the ones that are affected by Flamingo Beach, and not just here. I think, you're in a flood zone. We're not really going to pay attention because you're in a flood zone. You moved there. Well, 1989. Yeah, I guess we moved there. But the other thing that's frustrating to me is, of course, the jetty got it again. And there's money in the budget to fix the jetty again, but is there money in the budget? And I thank you for getting this gentleman and his company here, but I think you need to think about it as we move forward. It's a bunch of rocks and gravel. These are people's homes. It's our lives, and that we're hoping that you hear us and that you listen to us, because some people are very sarcastic and they think, well, the city doesn't care. So I really hope you prove us wrong, and fix the ditch, because I don't want to sit and look in fear all the time when, hurricane season is rolling around, as well as in our neighborhood. And so the reason I made copies, I'm giving copies to all of the council, because I want you to remember that it is personal, and to see, what has happened to not only my home, but so many of us in the neighborhood. So I do appreciate you, bringing this organization on to help us out, but I hope you take it farther than just them. So thank you. Thank you for allowing us to talk with you, and I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for coming. So you are heard. We're hearing you. Thank you.
Next speaker, Luann Wood.
Hi, I'm Luann Wood. I have lived here for 39 years in Golden Beach. This is not about me. This is about the city of Venice. This is about the Flamingo Ditch. James, how long has the city of Venice been maintaining the Flamingo Ditch? How many years? Can anybody answer that question?
We weren't really planning for a Q&A today. This is more of sharing information with our consultants, but I'm happy to follow up with you after the meeting, answer all your questions.
But you don't know the answer.
I'm glad to talk with you one-on-one
The
after the meeting.
second question I want is, when did Thomas come on board to address the Flamingo Ditch? When did your company get hired to be in Flamingo Ditch?
Yeah, we're here now.
No.
I don't-
When did the city of Venice hire you to address the Flamingo Ditch?
A couple of months ago is when we got our.
1 month, 2 months, 3 months?
I don't have the date.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
told October 2024. Is that true or false?
You might be right. I don't have the date.
Well, that's a yes or no question.
I don't know the answer to
You
your
don't
question.
know the answer when you were
I do not.
hired.
Nope.
This is not about me. This is about my neighbors. This is about our town. It's not acceptable. I have owned properties here, 3 in Golden Beach. I have never seen anybody address it on a professional level. I believe this is the first time a coastal engineering company has ever been employed on a consultant basis by the city of Venice. True or false, James? False. So this gentleman and his firm have been on our payroll or on a consultant basis in October. So many of these people are now under a 50% rule. My neighbors cannot afford to keep their homes. That is not right. I have here that I can share with you. It is a trust factor. Do I have to put it like that? Or do I have to put it? Okay. Well, okay, I'm sorry. All right, this is from June 11, 2013, 11 years ago. It specifically states, as you can see, and I have copies for everybody to share. It says here specifically, well, we intend to take on the Flamingo Ditch. When the cost exceeds and we cannot figure it out, 1.2 million or the outfall of 3.6 million, this benefit does not just work for anyone. You know how much damage that this Flamingo ditch has caused my neighbors? Nothing was done. It is a trust factor. This is 2013. I have another one here from 2013 on May 15th. Again, it's a trust factor, okay? And no one knew about it. Do I have to do it here? All right. This is a long time ago, guys. Come on. And in ending this, I just think that you should step up to the plate. The stormwater situation is not new to the Golden Beach area. I've lived here 39 years. I've seen the Flamingo Ditch fill up. I've seen the city of Venice be neglected and taking care of it. And I feel bad for my neighbors. It's just not right. Their dreams, their memories, it's terrible. And the financial bearing that these people, it really upsets me because it's just not right. It could have been avoided. My family was in the garbage business, the trucking business, the sand and gravel business. This was an easy fix, guys. It was, and people shouldn't have to bring shovels to take out the sand. We have equipment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Next speaker, Jack Thacker.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Thacker. I live in MacArthur Beach and Racket Club at 700 Golden Beach Boulevard. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I thank your group for coming down and being part of identifying alternatives. It's very, very important, as you've heard previous to me, the speakers. You know, I can't even fathom what some of these folks have gone through. We've had serious damage at MacArthur Beach. We're working through it. We have 4 or 5 homes or condos that are unlivable at this point in time. I think one of the key things, I see 2 issues, being very simplistic. You have a storm surge and you have the rainwater drainage. Julie showed pictures of the work she did at her corner of her house. I live in a high rise and we look out the window and we watch that ditch fill up. And as it fills up, we know there's problems. During Hurricane Helene, we watched the water come down Gardenia from our window, watch it come down Villas, watch it continue to grow at least an hour or maybe more before it even came over the dunes. So it can't get away. And once it came over the dunes, the water was doing nothing but accumulating. Once we were all taken out of there, as Julie mentioned, as boats, policemen, firemen helped us out. Once the ditch was opened up, in about an hour, everything was dry. Okay, it was dry. We could walk back in. And that was primarily because the ditch did not do its job. And it apparently wasn't designed properly to do its job. And that's what we're looking for the consultants to come up with. And we're looking for the city to analyze those alternatives and protect the people of the neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. The people are great. They'll all pitch in and help. But we can't do it alone. We need the city. Think about the people. Think about their lives. Think about the losses. And you can set in your neighborhoods away from the beach and not have to experience it and say, well, they moved there. They have that responsibility. But it's not the case. The city has responsibility to address the citizens of this town. And that's what I ask for the city council. Please take care of the people of this neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your observations. It's very helpful.
Next speaker, Andrea Stiller. Elizabeth Marzewski.
Hi, I live at 700 Golden Beach, like Jack had just said. And we were displaced from our home for 6 weeks. Other people have had it a lot worse. But this ditch problem has been ongoing, and it's not getting resolved. It's heartbreaking to not be able to go in your home and the emotional toll on it. Everyone's lost cars, property. It just isn't right. And we hear about studies, and you're talking about a study, and maybe in spring you'll have a plan, and then it'll be hurricane season again. So I just ask that you, act with some urgency and really try to find a solution to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Margot Hermano.
Good afternoon. I'm Margot Romano, and I live on Hibiscus Drive and have since 2015, and my parents prior since 2003. My house is one lot south of the Flamingo Ditch, and I'd like to express my concern and empathy to all my neighbors who have experienced traumatic flooding from the storms, named or not, in the Golden Beach neighborhood over the past few years. According to my 2003 survey, my garage sits at an elevation of 10.83 feet above sea level and living space at 12.19 feet elevation. With Helene and Milton, my garage took on 8 and 11 inches of water respectively, with my home within inches of taking on water. I never thought I would see my home as an island, but that's exactly what happened during Helene. I evacuated from Milton. My next-door neighbors were evacuated via motorboat on our streets while I watched water continue to rise into my garage and create a river around my home. Water remained at those high levels for 14 hours while homes around me sat in sewer and seawater. Then, if by magic, water disappeared within an hour and a half. I find it very interesting that as soon as an outlet pipe on the beach is open, the streets drain like a bathtub within an hour and a half to 2 hours, leaving soaked homes behind and homeowners left to rebuild. These storms are not isolated incidences of flooding. In the past 2 to 3 years, we have had heavy rain events with the same flood results, but the height of the water in the streets is increasing. With Helene and Milton stopping just 3 inches from my front door, I'm very concerned that I will not be so lucky come the next rain event or hurricane. Clearly, the Flamingo Ditch cannot handle the volume of water from a heavy rainstorm, not to mention a Cat 3 hurricane. I implore the city to preserve our lovely neighborhood and implement a permanent fix to this inadequate drainage problem that is mentally, physically, and financially impacting my friends and neighbors and all our homes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Fernando Furrier. Stephen Oglethorpe.
My name is Steve Oglethorpe. I live at 444 Darling Drive. I'll keep my comments very brief. My neighbors have all spoken very, very eloquently about most of the things that are on my mind, most of my concerns. There's one thing I haven't heard come up, which is public safety and public health issues. During one of the storms, we had a house fire in the neighborhood. And it was actually kind of shocking that the city emergency vehicles couldn't reach the house to address the fire. We're very, very fortunate no one was injured in that, but that could as easily have been a person with a heart attack or a person having a stroke, a person with a fall and a break. And it's very much a concern that the city emergency vehicles can't reach the neighborhood. So thank you all very much.
Thank you for that insight.
Next speaker, Tim Penderson. Tim Penderson. Peterson. Okay. Nancy Lisco.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lisco. I live at 508 Everglades Drive. We bought a home in Golden Beach in 2012, and at that time, the flood zone was AE 10. We really don't understand when we're buying a home what that means. I'm going to tell you that. So there may be some other things that we need to do to help educate people when they buy. But we do know that in 1988, a change in elevation measurement determinations was made, and it wasn't fully implemented in, I'm not sure if it was 2022 or 23, but we know it's in effect now, and it changed us to AE8. We don't know whether we completely understand AE8, but what we think we understand is that it means that our building requirements are to be at 9 feet, so that we're a foot above what the flood level would be. It's really surprising to hear that because, as everybody said before me, we're watching rain events create more flooding on our streets. We did not have any flooding up to our driveway in 2012 or 2014 or 2016, but we do now. A heavy rainstorm in the morning can bring floodwaters right up to our driveway. So that's new to us. Here's some of the other things we've observed. Prior to Irma, there was a slow-moving heavy rain event that lasted, I don't know, it was like 2 weeks or something. It was a very slow-moving storm, and that caused backup of the storm drain system. Even at Hibiscus and Villas, one of the storm drain manholes shot out of the drain because of the pressure from the backup. And that was a rain event. That was not a hurricane. In the past, I already said in the past we didn't have flooding, but now we do. We've been hand digging out, including neighbors volunteering to do this, the ditch, so that water will flow out faster. We have lots of questions now. Can rainstorm flooding just be attributed to global warming, or has something changed in our area to cause the flooding to be worse? We don't know about that. We need to understand better about why, if it's AE8, we're getting more flooding instead of less. Are the dunes holding the floodwaters in so that it's making flooding worse? We don't know. How is it that a 6-foot surge really means 10 feet, and our house, we have a new house, our old house would have been a couple inches above the storm, of the floods, but now we're about a foot above the flood, but our garage did flood in this event. So we're trying to understand all of this so that we can make our own future plans. We do think that a couple inches less, if this Flamingo ditch had been working properly or we had proper outflow, a couple inches less would have saved a lot of homes. There were a lot that had just a few inches. We think that if it had been addressed more quickly and people weren't sitting in water, floodwaters as long, there would have been less damage. People watched as the water wicked up their walls, and by the time they were able to get back in and clean up, there was a foot of water up the walls instead of a couple of inches. So what we're really interested in is what we can do to protect our property. Would a higher dune do it? Would higher streets do it? Maybe we should just raise all the street levels and it would become like a dike. I don't know. How creative can we be about finding solutions that would help protect the neighborhood, protect the homes, and protect us? We did not leave for Helene because we're at 12 feet. So a 4 to 7 foot surge didn't seem to be a concern. But we were directly across the street from the house that caught fire. We saw smoke coming out of the house at 7:15 in the morning. We saw firemen wading in thigh-deep or waist-deep water. One of my neighbors had to wade over in waist-deep water to move her car from the west side of our driveway to the east side so that it wouldn't flood. That was probably surge. but a couple of inches would have made a difference. And we know that it was flooding hours before the storm hit, for Helene in particular. We were out in the neighborhood. We saw at the corner, at Flamingo and Gulf, or Flamingo, we saw water coming out into the street. Villas was flooding. There was a city vehicle that was blocking the way, so we couldn't get up Villas. We saw Villas flooding at noon that day. So there was flooding that happened earlier than the hurricane event, which means the ditch wasn't working properly. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. If I could just mention for the previous speaker who was remote, Tim, if you can hear us, please go to flamingoditch.com and enter your comments there and we'll get them. Thank you.
Next speaker, Henry Pope. Pass, okay. Nina Nepip.
Hi, I'm Tina Nepip. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Tina Nepip. I own 2 properties in the vicinity where the flooding occurred, 715 Golden Beach and 707 Golden Beach. I have spoken before, and I was really irate, and I think that was what motivated the city that day to hire you the same day when they sat on the money for months and months and didn't hire one engineer. So my gripes have been seriously put out there, and to explain just the devastation that the city caused by not taking action year after year. This is an issue the city has been kicking this can down the road for over 20 years. I've lived in these 2 properties for 20 years. My concern now, because I don't have to reiterate, and I'll just sound like a broken record, when you've heard the heart-wrenching, absolutely distraught emotions of what has happened to our neighborhood. Our people, especially all my neighbors, have been devastated. So my point right now is, it's all wonderful to have this, let's get this group and talk, which is the city loves to do, because they show great PR. Because that's what the whole address, when everything happened and we were so devastated, all the city could think of was putting out these news releases and these articles in the paper to show how great we are. We're saving these people. We're doing this. When they caused all this nonsense instead of clearing that ditch. So I don't want this great PR stunt here where everybody's got to go and say, oh my gosh, I feel so amazing. The city's doing something. Well, the city's been doing this something for the last 30 years, 20 years that I know of because where I have been here. And I want to make note, in those 20 years, I haven't had 1 drop of water in my primary home, ever. It's an historic home. It's been as an icon on Golden Beach. Everybody knows that home. It was built by a Chicago senator, in the late 1950s. Anyway, my point being is that I absolutely love where I live. I love the neighborhood. I love the city. But I just don't like the management of it. I really hope that people now take and not worry so much of how much we're going to have as a surplus in our budget, instead of using that surplus to take care of the people who are part of the city and who are paying their taxes and doing their dues. I want them to put that surplus instead of waiting for FEMA to come up with a check. And we're only going to address all these things once we get money from FEMA. Well, that's just too little too late. I mean, you can go ahead and, we had to fight to go and get the grant money so you could start and hire somebody. I just don't want it to sit here, we had the meeting, we had a powwow, and this is where it ends. And we'll just go on our merry way. We've kept them quiet now for another year or 2 before we actually do something. So if it's going to cost so much money and it's going to cost a few million, whatever it's going to cost to do it, then figure out a way to raise that money. Figure out a way to do that, and don't just sit there, we'll just pacify them and keep them quiet now while we try and figure, we did our good deed, we did our PR, everybody's going to be happy. Because, the PR stunt is getting a bit old, and we're tired of it. We want action, not words. So I hope the city really, gets off their laurels and does something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Cheryl Rodham. Cheryl? Yvette Peterson? Robert Welsh?
Where do I sit here? I don't really have, I'm Robert Welsh. I live at 908 Villas Drive, Venice Villas, which is the kind of the epicenter of flooding from Flamingo Ditch because our community runs right along the outflow, all the way to the outflow. And I don't really have anything prepared, but I just wanted to discuss. When we have a heavy rain shower in the afternoon, Villas Drive floods. And our rear parking lot, which is right adjacent to a lift station, we can't get out onto the road if we have a car parked in that rear parking lot. And we did take some measures because our other parking lot, which is the extension of Village Drive all the way to the beach, because we're right along the Flamingo Ditch with the other lot, has one outflow pipe, which is there historically, and so it's grandfathered in because it's there historically. It's not very big, and it clogs up frequently, and we actually had to, when we redid our parking lot, we angled the parking lot so that it would flow towards that one pipe. And then our rear parking lot, so that the building wouldn't flood, we angled it so that it would go to a French drain that we had built, and which isn't very effective, but at least the angle makes it so you can park a line of cars adjacent to the two-story building we had there. And the other lot, that one pipe that we are allowed to have there, clogs up frequently, and we end up with a big pond in the parking lot, and it spreads out to the road. And so when we do get flooded, the water a lot of times can't even make it to the ditch. The road right outside Villas Drive floods, and our lot floods. And from one really bad afternoon shower we had one day, it almost got into our units, our condos. It made it into the lanais and just to the thresholds of the doors, just from an afternoon thunder shower. And after Milton and Helene, we took on, for each storm, we took on approximately 4 feet of water inside the units. And so only 16 out of our 79 units are above ground level, or second floor units. The whole rest of the 79 units are all ground level units, and they all flooded with, about 4 feet of water during each of those storms. And after the storm, the water didn't drain because the ditch was clogged up. And it was like, I think, a couple of days before they finally opened up the ditch where the water could actually flow out. During afternoon thunder showers, a lot of times it's a long time before they actually come out and open up the ditch. And during turtle season, which is all summer, which is our worst rain season, they can't bring out the heavy equipment to open the ditch. So it takes a man with a shovel. And what has happened frequently, as a lot of the people have already stated, is that neighbors would, including people from Venice Villas, would go down, take a shovel, and dig a tiny trench that would go toward the water, which would allow the flow to start and erode a bigger trench, which would cause eventually a torrent of water to leave. Now, in the meantime, until we do solve this problem, it would be great if even during turtle season, if the city could anticipate that when we have a rain shower in the afternoon in the summer or something, or a heavy shower, that it's going to clog up, and send at least one person with a shovel down there to just dig that tiny trench, that trickle that it takes to get the flow started, so that we can, have that outflow open up. It would also be great if we could get permission to put another drainage pipe from our parking lot to the ditch, but we haven't been, when we redid the asphalt, from what I understood, we weren't allowed to do that, to add additional drainage off the so that one little pipe that we aim toward, all the water goes there, but a lot of times it clogs up, and it's not a very big pipe. So that's some possible temporary solutions, but from living there for multiple decades now, I have seen different attempts at ways to handle the ditch. The worst was when they built that big wooden structure, which acted as a jetty. And what happens when you build a jetty in the Gulf? You end up with erosion, so it ate up our beach and just continue eating into the property because of the eddies that were created by the jetty, not a solution, by this wooden sluice. And the city wasn't allowed to send in workers because of something, I don't know, was the union something or something like that. They couldn't go underneath a closed structure, so they had to take the top off of that so that the city workers could go in with a shovel to dig it out. So, oh, time's up. Anyway, so at least there's a temporary thing. They could go ahead and send somebody out with a shovel in anticipation to dig that tiny trench to get it started. But having an outflow doesn't seem to be the answer. It seems like that water has to be diverted somewhere else.
Thank you, Robert.
Timothy Paris. Okay. Patrick Murphy. Okay. Patrick Lynch.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Lynch. I live at 513 Villas Drive. Our house was a full loss from the early onset first storm. But I wanted to stop by. I appreciate that the city has set up time for everyone to get together and discuss this, that they brought Tom and his team on board. I just wanted to kind of raise a couple of issues that I'd like to see addressed in this study that gets performed. So, Tom, I apologize, this is no in particular order, but I'm going to just rock at the
Have at it.
All right. So for starters, one, I don't know if the city has published the scope of this study in detail, what was actually contracted for, but I think that would be a good step in transparency so that we could understand if we wait several months to receive the study, what the deliverable will be so that we're not awaiting further information. I'm just going to fire them off at you. One, as part of the study, it would be nice to understand the impact of whatever the proposed solutions are on the sewer system, because as it's been stated several times, there was so much flooding that the sewage backed up and flooded sewage all over the neighborhood. So I think that's a consideration that needs to be addressed. Next topic. This ditch has been in existence for decades and decades. I heard in an email somewhere that the property is actually private property, that the stormwater, what I'm calling a retention pond, is absorbing all this water. So as part of this study, it'd be good to understand whose property this actually is, and if the city is using the land as a retention system for the stormwater management process in the neighborhood. Are there easements in place that allow and permit the city to make use of the land in that capacity? If there is not, what is the plan there? Because it sounds like we would just continue to be evading these people's property without having an alternative look at how we could take the water in a different location. On the same thread, if that is the case, or at least for consideration, it would be good to understand in the study if it was feasible in any fashion to just fill in the ditch in its entirety and move the water someplace else. As an example, you could study the outflow at Alhambra Road. Right? There is no retention pond at Alhambra Road. There's an outflow onto the beach. What is the difference in elevation there? Why is that section of the neighborhood not exposed to this condition with the retention system? Next topic. One is more of an opinion. Any system that's proposed, and I know you're not doing detailed design, but any system that's proposed that even suggests that a citizen or someone from Public Works needs to go out to the beach in the event of a storm and perform some physical task, in my opinion, is outrageous for a whole number of reasons. So I think whatever the solution is, and I know you're not doing detailed design, but that is an outrageous assumption and shouldn't even be entertained. Next, it would be good in your study if you can explain what other types of regulatory review have been evaluated, like Army Corps of Engineers, EPA, the state. It would be good to understand that there's a comprehensive study being done at the federal and state levels and local levels. We've heard a lot of different feedback from various people about years and years and years of seeing this behavior of the stormwater system. So in the study, I'd like to see the various scenarios that have occurred, whether it be a heavy rain, a surge coupled with a heavy rain, a little rain, a clogged distribution system or drainage system coupled with a surge. We should show several scenarios and how the proposed solution would address each scenario. Tom, is probably aside from you, but someone noted this, I think it's important. Clearly, if you look at a project schedule for how this solution would get tackled over the next several years between this study that goes on, procurement of a design team to do detailed design, procurement of a contractor to get the operations in place to go implement a solution, no matter what happens, none of this is going to get addressed for the 2025 hurricane season. So what I'd like to see is the city come back and present what their plan is for 2025. Because from what I've seen, I haven't seen anything like that. So is it the assumption to all the property owners in the neighborhood that we should just assume that we're going to get flooded out in 2025? So it'd be good to understand what that is. Sorry, I apologize. I know I'm over time.
You can continue. Go ahead.
One, regarding funding, I'd like to know what inquiries have been made at a federal and state level to solicit funding for not only this study, but the project holistically, and what estimates are associated with that. I would imagine that FEMA has some skin in this game, because if you look at the study that was done in 2013, where the proposed solution was to the order of magnitude of several $1 million, as someone noted, there's probably been tens of millions of dollars in damage that have occurred that has made its way back to FEMA. So if I was a representative of FEMA, I would be standing here going, why did we give up an opportunity to spend $2 million instead to have to pay $10 million or $20 million or $40 million? So it would be good if somehow, some way, there was some communication with FEMA and have their position stated about their ability to support funding for the project. Another issue that got raised was someone made the comment about the jetty and repairing the jetty. I think obviously there are competing priorities, but it would be good to understand what those priorities are for the town. So I would imagine that the town has a capital program that shows which projects are slated for implementation over the next several years. It would be good to understand where Flamingo Ditch fits in that order of priority, and it should be subject to some type of debate. Next, I know it was noted that there is no current construction program or plan to implement this fix, as the fix is clearly not known, and there will be another study and further design. I'd challenge that thinking, because just because we don't have a design doesn't mean that we can't forecast what the design time will be and what the construction schedule will look like. So I guess my question would be to whoever manages capital projects for the city to ask them if they can prepare, if only a forecast, and they can qualify it so that folks in the neighborhood can at least begin to plan their decision-making about whether or not they're going to renovate their homes, tear them down, sell them, move, whatever it is. But I challenge the philosophy that there's just no way of knowing that, and that we can't project anything, and everyone is left in the lurch about how they're going to proceed with their lives. All right, I'll stop there, Tom. I'll give it back to you.
Thanks a lot. Do you want my job? No, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I have no further speakers signed up.
Well, I will close here today by thanking you again for all of your time. There's a lot of information that we just received, and I'm trying to absorb it on the fly. I took a lot of notes. Joe took a lot of notes. We have the submittals that you gave to us here today. We also expect that after this, we'll see more information coming in through the website. I would appreciate if you can deliver that information to the website as soon as possible. As I said, we're trying to amalgamate all of this and get it together, shortly after the turn of the year so that we can start putting together the rest of our study and move things along. So please, if you have additional comments, please try to get them in, let's just say before the end of the year so that we have them when we start fresh next year. I don't think I have any other comments at this point other than to, again, thank you for all of your time and all of your participation. I know it was tough in this room and being in the other room and being remote, but thank you to the city staff for all of your help as well. And we look forward to talking with you some more. Thank you so much.